Hello again, Struckweb. Today I'm bringing you another build video for Torchlight 3, and this one is for the Sharpshooter class and Bane subclass. It's called Infectious Summoner 2.0, which is a rework of a previous build of mine. In this update of the Infectious Summoner, we are using some of the new gear that has been added ever since the old build exists, such as some Winterweave items, such as the Winterweave gauntlets, such as the Ancient Ember boots, which give us Imbue Relic, and then to combine that with the Frostwall that gives us cooldown for Imbue Relic, and one more item of the Arctic Armament set of your choosing to get the extra cooldown reduction. We can get very spammy with Imbue Relic, using it every 30 seconds and soon to be 24 seconds once they rework some things on some of the classes. In general, it's gonna be very nice, and you have like a legion of enemies. You have Cold Legion, you have Goblin Legion, so 2 legions of minions, and then you can get up to 13 spiders combined from Miasma and from the Spiderlings passive skill. It's not gonna be a meta skill, it's not gonna be as good as some of the more damage-oriented builds, such as, for example, the Combustive Sharpshooter or the Electrified Sharpshooter, which I'm gonna make a 2.0 version of soon. So Electrode and Flaming Destroyer still remains stronger than a minion build for Sharpshooter, but it's definitely nice. It's not a terrible build, it's much better than it used to be before, and some of you may like it. If you want some minions to complement your Explosive Arrow or whatever other skill you decide to use instead of Explosive Arrow, this is a good choice of a build. Keep in mind, Explosive Arrow is the main dish, and the minions are a little bit of extra flavor there. And they can be strong when the enemy is alone, but if there's adds, they kind of tend to attack randomly whoever is nearest. So let's talk about the skills first. The skills for this build are as follows. Keep in mind, wherever you see 10, 8, etc., it means it's that number plus 2 bonus skills from my Musketeer set. So this is level 10, but it's actually level 12, so it's getting a little bit better cooldown than a regular level 10 skill would have been, such as a 8 plus 2 or a 10 plus 0. And this one gets a little bit more damage because it's level 10 plus 2. Now, keep in mind, I also have a item, only one item that gives me Explosive Arrow damage. More about those things in the gear segment, in the next segment. So yeah, just 10 points here and 10 points here, maxing out those. This for the cooldown, this for the damage. And now, Loyal Shasta, tier 2. For me, it's 4 plus 2 for the 50% increased damage to taunted enemies, and she's the one taunting. If you don't want to get Shasta, there's alternative choice. You can still put points into her for the damage to taunted, but then put points into Ghost Visage all the way to tier 3, and you can taunt with Ghost Visage, but that's kind of boring because it lasts only for 2 seconds. Compared to this one when it was for 8 seconds. So definitely better to use Shasta for the taunting. Now, Scout's Bones I'm keeping at 8 plus 2, just to get the tier 3 bonus for the 3 bows, so I can proc all those projectiles with the Infectious Shooter pistol. It's pretty decent having triple the projectiles, triple the bows. Now Ghost Visage I'm keeping only at tier 1, which is 1 plus 2 for me. That extra charge, extra mobility combined with revolt, it's pretty decent. Sacrifice to Goose for me, unfortunately for this build, is a passive only skill, because I'm using Imbue Relic, I'm using Cold Legion and Goblin Legion. Some of you might want to prefer not using Goblin Legion or not using Cold Legion, and you might then want to add Sacrifice to Goose as an active skill, so that you can get that extra vulnerability. This is not gonna be like a meta setup, but it is a setup centered around summons. That's why I'm using Goblin Legion and Cold Legion alongside Imbue Relic to keep my Miasma up at all times. So Goblin Legion, as you can see, is 8 plus 2 for the tier 3 bonus for the brutes. And I think this might be a bug, but when I use a brute and then revote, and then use the goblins, there's another brute and then revote, and then another goblin, and I can stack brutes. Not sure if that's intended. The regular goblins remain the same number, and I keep recasting them, but the brutes remain when I recast the skill. So maybe you might you might get too attached to the brutes, but don't get too attached to the brutes, because I think this is a bug. I can't confirm if it's intended, but it seems like it isn't. So at best you would have at least one brute at all times when this gets fixed. Now Bane, with the Bane it's pretty simple. Miasma maxed out to level 10, 5 points into Puppet Master for more minion damage, 5 points into Spread of Death for the procs that happen when we kill poison enemies, when we crit poison enemies, and 8 elect allies, not a bad additional passive for extra up to 7 spiders. So those 7 spiders combined with the 6 spiders from Miasma give us a 13 spider count with the 10 skeletons here, and with the, I think without the bug this should be like 8 or 9 goblins, depending on how many adventurer bonuses you have, 3 or 4 depending on whether you're wearing the boots or not. Miasma tier 3 is amazing for minion builds, although minion builds that are not train builds are not amazing right now, but you can still get that 100% damage with that 25% damage and still have some okay damage on the minions. The minions are gonna be mostly for meat shields, but when a boss is alone and it's just you, the boss and the minions, and all the minions are attacking that boss, you would see the HP of the boss melting. The problem is with melee minions such as the spiders, which I don't think those spiders should be melee only. I think there should be like 20-30% chance for those spiders to spawn as ranged. But yeah, melee enemies, melee minions such as the melee goblins, such as the melee skeletons, such as the melee spiders, they're kind of not as smart as you would want them to be, and they don't really attack. Sometimes they will just stand next to me and I would be hitting someone that's over there, and my ranged minions would be attacking, but the spiders would just stay next to me, not doing anything to the enemy. So if you don't like those spiders, you can always put points into Energizer, but with Imbue Relic, Energizer kind of becomes useless. And I think that's the most optimal way to set the skills. You should have seen some alternative variants for those who want to kind of experiment and mix things up. But that pretty much is it, in my opinion. So let's move on to the Legendarium. In the Legendarium, I strongly suggest having those 3 items: Infectious Shooter, Rifle of Leadership, Sword of the Lost Legion. This allows you to equip North Mace, which is remodeled, that's not the actual skin. This is the actual skin of the North Mace. So it allows you to equip the North Mace, and it allows you to equip a Frostwall, which this is the actual skin of the Frostwall. And by equipping North Mace and Frostwall, or Glacier's Edge and Frostwall, you can get 50% cooldown from the Frostwall. We don't care whether it's a North Mace or a Glacier's Edge, because we're not using their active skill. Whatever drops as a good roll, use that one. More about rolls in the gear. And this allows us to use Frostwall, which gives us Imbue Relic at 30 seconds instead of 60 seconds. And we get Imbue Relic from the Ancient Ember boots. And I thought it was good to mention this. More about gear in the gear segment, but this is how we got that skill, Imbue Relic, from the Ancient Ember boots. And Frostwall with this or this in a combo gives it 50% cooldown. So this becomes 30 seconds cooldown, and this becomes 30 seconds cooldown. And this 30 seconds cooldown when they fix Sacrifice to Goose, to give us not Sharpshooter skill cooldowns but cooldown reduction, which would affect this by 10% and this and any other item granted skill by 10%. That means from 60 this gets another 6 seconds down to 24-second cooldown when we're using the Frostwall combo. And that pretty much is, in my opinion, the meta setup for, not meta setup, but the best setup for this build in regards to Legendarium. Alternative options would be Herman's Masterwork, it's pretty okay to use. Then what else did I forget? Shasta's Promise, I wouldn't suggest using it, but you might want to if you feel like it, if you don't have any other options. It's not bad. Then there's other Ancient Ember pieces, other Winter Weave pieces. Even some Arc Power pieces might not be bad. Or you can even try and implement Bone Razor Bomb Walker. See, with the Bone Razor Bomb Walker, there's one thing you need to know. You can equip the Bomb Walker and put in the Legendarium the Bone Razor, and that would give you the set. You cannot equip the Bone Razor and put in the Legendarium the Bomb Walker and still get the extra set. And I think Sword of the Lost Legion pretty much covers the Bone Razor Bomb Walker with just one Legendarium slot. And the problem is you cannot equip Bomb Walker and Bone Razor in the Legendarium at the same time to get them to boost each other. If you equip both of them at the Legendarium, you're only gonna get the 3 Skeleton Knights and the 3 Skeleton Warriors without the 4 Skeleton Archers. And I think the Archers are actually the best thing out of the bunch because they're ranged. So yeah, as I mentioned, there's other options such as, for example, a Liu General. If you're already wearing Frostwall and one of the weapons, then you might also consider putting Liu General, maybe removing the rifle here, and that gives you extra 25% damage for 8 seconds every 30 seconds after using Imbue Relic. Even if Miasma is still even if Miasma, for example, is still draining energy, you can still use Imbue Relic to keep it, and then that triggers the Liu General, and the Liu General, as I said, gives you 25% damage, 25 damage reduction, and if you have Frostwall and Glacier Sedge already equipped, it would also boost the Liu General and give you casting speed, which makes this and this cast faster, and everything actually becomes faster as an animation. So yeah, there's that to keep in mind. So hopefully this is helpful suggestion. Now I think it's time to move on to the pet skills. Some things are kind of still broken, still getting fixed from the new things. I don't think this and this are working. This one is very hard to tell, but my guess is it also doesn't work, because my pet seems to evade even without this, and it seems to evade the exact amount of times as before. So yeah, kind of I would stay away from those until they fix them, but eventually this and this and this would be very fun to use on a minion build. The problem is this is only 2 summons for 50% weapon damage, 12 seconds duration. This is again 2 summons for 50% weapon damage, 12 seconds. Again, both of them are 50% of your HP. This one is 4 summons for the same duration and for the same damage and for the same HP. So this is double the gain of this and this with the same cooldown. So if you were to put a minion skill when this gets fixed, this would be the better one out of the bunch. This gives you owls, this gives you skeletons, which are actually melee, from what I remember. But this gives you an owl, alpaca, wolf and cat. And that would be interesting to consider. I normally like deadlier strikes, but if you think you have enough crit chance, which caps at 40, then you can probably put this or even this as an aura, or even not use an aura. It's up to you. I strongly recommend using Healing Friendship, and I strongly recommend using things like Zoomies, more about why in the gear segment, but it's basically to proc Drought Neckband and Token of Invigoration more often. Now let's move on to the gear segment. Here we are at the gear segment, where I'm gonna show you some of the items I've decided to take for the build, what the synergies between those items are to get some skills, and what affixes you might want. So the major synergy would be, as I've mentioned earlier, Ancient Ember boots combined with Frostwall and either North Mace or Glacier's Edge. And as I showed you, this is remodeled, so this is what the North Mace looks like, and this is what the Frostwall looks like. Keep that in mind. So you don't have to wear North Mace, you can wear Glacier's Edge. It doesn't matter which one it is, as long as it's a better rolled one. Use that one. More about the rolls in a moment. First, I'd like to say why I'm using those items. So the Ancient Ember boots gives us Imbue Relic. And even if you don't have it with the set, which actually the set bonus is useless to us because we don't use Arachnid Assault, although you might want to rework the build to use Arachnid Assault if you feel like it. But we're only using them for the basic bonus, for recharging the relic energy and resetting the skill cooldowns, which actually we don't even need the relic skill cooldowns. And then this gives it 50% with the set bonus extra cooldown, brings it down to 30 seconds. And we need this or this to get this to be 50 instead of 25. And this is one of the most important things. Additionally, as I mentioned in the Legendarium segment, you might want to swat the Lil General in the Legendarium, or you might want to equip the Lil General here and swat the Frostwall. But that would require sacrificing something like the Rifle of Leadership. And that's okay if you don't use Goblin Legion. That's my suggested choice. If you have decided to replace Goblin Legion on the skill bar and maybe use Sacrifice to Goose as an active, this is good enough. Or maybe decide to use Arachnid Assault as an active, and maybe get this one to be combined with two more pieces for the 3-piece set. That's fine. If you want the 3-piece set, I would probably suggest getting... well, it's gonna be tough what to get because you really need to wear Musketeer hat and Musketeer rope with one more item. But let's say you get those 3 or those 3 or those 3 as Musketeer, then you get the other ones as Ancient Ember. So the thing is, I strongly suggest going for Winterweave Gauntlets and not getting 3 pieces Ancient Ember. Winterweave Gauntlets is very good for such a build where you might be a little bit squishier, and thankfully this squishiness we kind of deal with Miasma, which gives us extra defense, and you can keep Miasma up at all times as long as you're fighting with Imbue Relic, and that allows you to have some extra survivability. And on top of that, adding the Winterweave Gauntlets, even if it's just 3 sources of damage, not 6, it's a good thing. So I prefer using Winterweave Gauntlets, Ancient Ember boots, and maybe whatever legs you prefer. It could be some of the set legs from any set you like. It could be blue legs if you can get the good legendary ones. It's entirely up to you, but you must have the Musketeer rope, you must have the Musketeer helmet, the hat, and one more Musketeer item. In my case, that was the pauldrons. It's up to you whether you use Musketeer pauldrons or Musketeer leg armor. It doesn't matter as long as you have 3 pieces Musketeer. So for the pet, I suggest using Drought Neckband together with Token of Invigoration and either a Token of Rapid Bartering or Phoenix or whatever else. Bartering is nice for farming, to send your pet to the town and get it to return quicker. Invigoration keeps resetting the skills, and this keeps healing you. More about pet stuff in a moment. I'm gonna talk about the best affixes for each SWAT. I'm gonna start with the weapon. In the weapon side of things, you know, every weapon comes with the built-in elemental damage. This one is with ice. This one also is with ice, but you can get any other type of damage at the top. And the other types of damage the other types of affixes you would want would be ideally flat damage, crit chance, something like that. So the more flat damage you get, the better it is. So where I have Swag Shot and Shock Bolts and basic attack, over there you would want to get in the middle, I call them middle affixes, you would want flat damage. Maybe 2 times flat damage, 1 times crit damage, 2 times flat damage, 1 times crit chance, or 2 times flat damage, 1 times extra levels to Explosive Arrow won't be a bad thing either. There are ways to kind of get the most out of it. You can only get 1 socket. 1 socket, this is the way it's intended. 1 socket only on blue and orange legendary and rare items. If you have more sockets from before and like me you're getting that extra damage, expect that damage to get removed. This one had 2 sockets and one of the sockets has been removed, but the damage I got from that socket remains, which is a bug, and soon I would lose around 900% damage on this weapon, and it's gonna be completely useless apart from just completing my Frostwall set. But it's still better than this one because at least it has a socket. So on the shield you would want defense and block chance at the top. The higher the defense, the better. At the bottom you would want probably block chance and as much more defense as possible. Here the SWO I would replace with regular physical defense. And then in the socket I would suggest chance to poison. This specific affix I'm using, the good chance to poison, not the throw one. There's two types of elemental affixes. One of them is meant to throw you, which gives you much less chance to poison. It doesn't give you damage and it doesn't give you duration increase. And then there's this one, the good one. So what you're looking for is this here. Percent chance to poison for percent base damage for X seconds instead of X percent to poison chance affixes, which this one at the bottom it's like between 10 and 20 chance to poison, whereas this one is like between 40 and 60. So those ones are just meant to dilute the pool of affixes and to throw you, to make you rage at getting shitty affixes that are 3 times inferior to the other ones. So get this one. Strongly suggest to get it so you don't need to get poison chance on the weapon. On the helmet you would want crit chance and maybe extra levels to explosive arrow, because as you saw you can get further than level 10 when you have extra levels. Explosive arrow is your main damage dealer for this build. The summons are extra flavor, extra spice, like some extra Tabasco on your salad, but Explosive Arrow is gonna be your main DPS, alongside the procs from Infectious Shooter and the Scout's Bones. So get crit chance here, get defense, get extra levels to Explosive Arrow and sockets for defense. Here the best thing you can get is this affix, Explosive Arrow damage. Get that Explosive Arrow damage, maybe get crit damage or maybe get flat damage if you're lucky. The best thing you can get is, if you're talking meta, you can get Explosive Arrow damage and flat damage, not percent damage, flat damage that matches your equipped weapon's highest damage. In my case that would be ice. That would be better. Of course, obviously if you get an extra affix and get crit damage on top of it, even better. And then socket for defense. For this one you can get Explosive Arrow damage, you can get flat damage, you can get percent damage, and you can get percent crit chance, not crit damage. This gets crit chance, this gets crit chance, this gets crit damage, this gets crit damage, and this gets crit damage. This one can also get the Explosive Arrow damage. So if you get Explosive Arrow damage with crit damage there and some defense, it's perfect. It's amazing. For the boots, you can only get elemental damage and crit damage. And elemental damage, if it matches your main damage, it's not bad. Look at my damage here. The ice damage 6.9 becomes 6.4 when I remove the extra percent. And if I put this thing that gives me extra percent ice, I can stack 8.3 and 17, and then I get a little bit of extra ice. So stacking the same damage is good only when stacking, only when that's your major damage. And you can get this percent here, here and here, but it's still better to get flat here, and then maybe the percent here, or maybe focus on crit damage here. Obviously get some defense, and other things that are useful for the boots and gauntlets is this thing, duration for Miasma. You don't need much of it because, well, you do get Imbue Relic, which can kind of allow you to have Miasma at 100% uptime with the low cooldown as a result of the Frostwall. But if you don't have the Frostwall combo, get Miasma duration here and here on those two places. Over here you can get also other things like more defenses, it's a very good choice to do it, or crit chance versus poisoned and things like that. It's not gonna be terrible. And that pretty much sums up everything. If I missed something, make sure to check the website version of the build. Now for the pet skill, you would want faster cooldown for pet active skill, the thing you see me having here at the bottom. Then you would want things like pet attack speed. So on the neckband and the tokens, you can get faster cooldown for pet active speed and pet attack speed. Faster cooldown for pet active skills, pardon me, pet active skills and attack speed. Those are the two affixes you want in the two slots for all three of those items. The attack speed helps you proc Drat neckband quicker and token of invigoration quicker, and the cooldown helps lower the cooldown of the pet skills and make the pet heal and do other things more often. Combine that with zoomies with extra attack speed and it's pretty nice. And I think that's it for the skill segment. Next we're gonna talk about the rotation of the build in the gameplay segment. And here we are at the gameplay segment where I'm gonna show you more of the build in action, more gameplay footage, and talk about possible rotations. Keep in mind, I would really love to see some changes in regards to how the Sharpshooter class mechanic works, because right now you have to use one adventurer skill and then use 3 times a precision skill, or 4 times if you have the boots bonus. But that's not really fun because that doesn't allow you, it overrides the bonus. But if they change it so that the bonuses don't override each other, I can use something like Shasta, Goblin Legion, Scout's Bones and Ghost Visage, and there start using my precision skill, which in my case would be explosive arrow for this build. So hopefully they consider reworking it in such a way. Now let's talk rotations. You want to start with some of the summons. So let's say Shasta first, because I don't like Shasta later. I start with Shasta, then I would probably do Cold Legion and then Goblin Legion. After Goblin Legion, immediately do 3 explosive arrows to summon more goblins, and then you would want to move on to the Scout's Bones rotation. Right now you can take advantage of how recasting Goblin Legion allows you to get an extra 1 or 2 or more brutes. So you can do something like this. Scout's Bones revolt, this recharges Goblin Legion, use another Scout's Bones, use Goblin Legion, then another revolt, and then another Scout's Bones, and then another Goblin Legion, and then start using Explosive Arrow to get some extra goblins out there. So reusing Goblin Legion right now seems to be bugged and gives you extra brutes, but not extra little goblins, so maybe keep that in mind for now. To get notified when I upload more content for this game or other games like this one, which would be wooters of all varieties, isometric, third-person ARPGs, wooter shooters and all sorts of wooters like that, you could subscribe to my channel and hit that bell button to not miss out on my content updates. And optionally, you can even join as a member of the Struck Club on YouTube as a channel member to get access to exclusive perks such as special emotes custom made by me, special badges custom made by me that represents how many months you have been a member for, as well as opt-in of editing tutorials that I can give for Photoshop, Adobe Premiere, as well as shoutouts and things like that. And I would like to use this part of the video to thank all my YouTube members and Twitch subscribers. Thank you for supporting the channel and keeping me going. Thank you also for watching this video, everyone. Keep it cool, Struck Club. Until next time, and goodbye.